everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got an epic show ahead, but just remember, if any of you have experiences you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can either email me at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com or head over to paranormalportal.net and scroll down and find the button that says Interview Me, and that'll allow you to look at a calendar of possible times and dates and find a date that works for you. Love to hear your stories, so definitely get in touch with me. Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. Really appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for all your love and support. Hope the world is treating you amazingly. And I've got an epic show lined up for you guys today. We are joined by Steve Martin, who is from North Carolina, and he's had a whole host of incredible encounters with spiritual beings. And he's here to talk about some of that and talk about the background of that and bring us up to speed about his wealth of experience. So without further delay, let's get to it. Hey, Steve, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Brent. I appreciate it. Good to be here.
It's absolutely my pleasure. Obviously, reading your email and reading when you reached out to me is like, wow, this is some incredible stuff. And this really is kind of a show first. Not just in that this has been such a journey for you and it's been such an experience of evolution for you in a lot of ways. So I think that's pretty profound, but I guess the best place to start is, where did this start for you?
Well, it started for me late in age. It happened in 2018, about January. Wasn't expecting it. It just began as a series of events that sort of unfolded. But I will say this, it did center around giving an offering to a little cave I have back here behind my place. I have a friend of mine who's, I don't know if you ever heard of Katamli medicine. It's a little people's medicine.
Okay.
She's communicates with them, and she's a friend of mine from the Asheville area. And just a year after meeting with her and seeing what she did, I thought about it because I had just recently purchased this property out in the middle of the Smoky Mountains in the rural part of the Western North Carolina out here. And for some reason, I thought maybe if there's anything to it, which I always keep an open mind, maybe I should introduce myself as the current caretaker of this land. And who knows, So I called her up and asked her what was good as an offer. She told me what the earth elementals or the little people like. And I was thinking gnomes and dwarves. I had no idea of Cherokee little people, the Uwee or nothing like that. And I went down there to this little cave and put a little dish out there with everything on it she had advised. And it was late January of 2018. And I thought, well, why hike back up? I'll sit out here and meditate 30 minutes, which I usually meditate. I always have for the past 20 something years. And as I was meditating, and I got my asana and got settled in, and I was facing the western horizon area, and it was starting to get later in the day. So the sun was between my closed eyelid. My eyelids were between the sun, and I could see something like blocking the light like this in front of my half closed eyes. I had them, half closed, and I opened my eye up and I'm looking around. I don't see nothing. So I settled back in. I see it again, happening again. I'm like, what is that? And I stood up a little bit like that, started watching, and I could catch a white vapor wafting by from maybe the cave opening around. And I was sitting there, I settled back thinking, my left brain's like, oh, I know what that is. That's just moist, warm air rising up through the hole in the earth, condensating into cold ambient temperature, And that didn't last long until I was like, no, that's not what this is. It's warm. It was like almost 70 degrees that day, and it was cooling down.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't cold enough to condense a humid air from a cave. I thought that roused my suspicion quite a bit. And anyhow, I went ahead and stayed there another 20 minutes or so and was watching it time to time whack by. And I was thinking it was condensation or something like that. Later, I would find out what it was. It was them. Because after that one, and that whole situation, I've got it in my blog about what happened after that. And so I don't want to delve into one thing too long and kind of keep it open. And if you want to ask me any kind of questions, I'm available to expand on any of this. It's all original. It's nothing I've read. That said, now I'm an avid researcher. And after these things began to happen to me, I would research any available avenue of not a library or internet books, anywhere I could get knowledge about what was going on with me personally with this phenomenon. I really want to get to the bottom of it, but it after the working at the cave, a few days went by, maybe a week, and I started working with a black mirror, and there's a reason for it. And I don't want to maybe go off on a tangent on that, but to make a long story short, I thought I could get some help from the other world with a question I had. And it all kind of came together. Well, working with a black mirror, I don't know how familiar, if you've ever done any workings or interviews with people who have worked with them.
No.
But yeah, they're a very powerful tool for developing this sort of ability and I think it's like a muscle. I think most people have it. You just got to exercise it, and that's using the black mirror. To me, you don't look at yourself. I got it from Raymond Moody, MD. He was a psychologist in I think Alabama, and he went to ancient Greece and went through the Necronomitons and how they would use it as a healing tool. A bereaving family from a recent loss of a loved one would come down underground temple, and there'd be a big brass polished vat full of olive oil and a candle. And there, the priest would tell the husband or wife or the children of the deceased, if you want to speak to your mother or father, here you go. And that was a place where families could come back and heal when one died and the rest of the family didn't ever have any closure. It provided that last word for both the deceased and the relatives who remained. And Dr. Raymond Moody was responsible for bringing that technology back. He called it a psychomantium. Psycho,
yes,
and mantium meaning to divine.
Okay.
Using it. Now, the history of the black mirror goes back really deep, especially for South America, right across the border with the Aztecs. And it's called Tezcatlipoca. I hope I didn't butcher that up. But Tezcatlipoca is the lord of the smoking mirror, or the black obsidian mirror. And they always there's a reason they have smoking, because somehow you're able to see the ether. And the ether, as you and a lot of your audience probably know, is the fifth element. We got four. We all know, earth, water, air, fire. What's the fifth? Spirit. Well, spirit is ether. It's the crown of the pentagram.
Okay.
It's the spirit. It's represented by the tip point. Well, that's something that's been occulted and basically surgically removed from academia for the past 150 years with most Western cultures and societies. You can't. I was a senior in engineering lecture hall, and I raised my hand. I asked the professor. I said, "Why ain't there no more in this book about ether than this?" because I studied Nikola Tesla and made his inventions when I was going to my first 2 years of college for electrical engineering. And it was easy, man. The way he taught, excuse me, the way he taught how to wrap coils and apply the mathematics, man, it was black and white and easy. When I got to a 4-year degree, they didn't do it that way. It was more about taking a test and making sure you followed orders and memorized stuff that didn't make sense and stuff. But I never will forget that. That really shocked me that they gave ether that little recognition. That was back in 1994, 96 at the University of Charlotte, North Carolina in Charlotte. Yeah. But it's ether, and ether is being manipulated and used by corporations. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but
Sure.
it's a fact. The propagation of radio waves, television, any kind of transmitted wave is propagated not through air and air molecules like we were taught or think. They're literally jacking the ethers, man, where these beings stay.
Huh.
And I can get in all this from interacting with them. It's not nothing that I'm reading or anything I'm telling you is all based upon my working with them. And I've done a lot of working with them, all sorts of them. And they're all just as cool as they come.
That's fascinating. So when you're using the psychomantium, is that and when you said Black Mirror, I wasn't really following, but once you said psychomantium, and I think that practice goes back to even ancient Egypt.
Absolutely, it does. You're right.
Yeah. Is that where you're in a low lit room with like a candle burning behind you, and you really, your eyes adjust and you start to see in the reflections. I've talked to people that have done that, and they swear they've had amazing conversations with deceased loved ones and stuff. So it's very powerful. You're right. As far as and it's very ancient, that practice.
It's amazing. It's one of the, I took to it like a duck to water, and I said, man, I done found my calling here. I was about to retire as an electrical engineer and just kind of fade out into the nature here where I live. Mm-hmm. And they weren't going to have none of that, man. But I think honestly, it's a proclivity. It's not for everybody.
Sure.
But it transformed my life and my world into something I would have never imagined in a million years had anyone asked me. Yeah.
Let me ask you, just as a side note, because this is a fascinating subset of what you're saying, though, but you come from a background of electrical engineering, and then to go such an esoteric and spiritual path, was it a very natural transition for you, or was it really hard to reconcile your two worlds, or what was your experience with that?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question, and I can answer it very as equally as clear. And that is no, is a very, very easy transaction because for whatever reason, I was born into a family who were known to be psychic. My great grandmother, my grandmother's mother, was well known in the town and the county, and even the state and the seaboard even at the time, as a very reliable, humble, and indiscreet psychic. In other words, she wasn't for hire. She's a little church lady. You would never suspect it, but her reputation finally got out when I think she predicted a robbery at a railroad bank down, because they're the railroad town. And she was good with it. She was sharp, and the police staked it out. I think her husband may have had, she was worried about him basically going into work and walking in on the shit. Excuse me, the scene.
That's right.
I'll mind my mouth. And so she contacted the police, and the rest of the cat was out of the bag after that. And you can Google her today on Google or Facebook and still pull a lot of information. It's starting to dwindle. I remember when the internet came online, and I was fascinated. I would get all kind of stuff from newspapers about her and articles, but as time has passed. So growing up in that type of environment, I heard a lot of conversations as a kid that it really made me wonder, and having a family like that, I think either the propensity just from saturation, osmosis, or maybe, I don't know, maybe something in my bloodline, or just being in that energy or that family. I'm not sure, but I've always had premonitions. But the thing is, like with a lot of people, and they may agree with me, it was hard to control. It was like spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
And I refer to it as a useless talent, if there is such a thing, where it was amazing. You couldn't explain it, and it really didn't serve no function. It was just entertainment. And I had it all my life until I moved here, and everything was all calm and normal, if you want to call it normal, until 2018. And it just snowballed from there into something I would have, like, you can't imagine. It's just unbelievable. It plunged me into a real life. I've never been into a movie watcher, but I have seen some of the Harry Potter movies back in the early, what was it, the 2011s, 2010 area.
Yeah.
I did watch a few of those with friends, and I look back, I'm thinking, man, this ability and working with these dust anything of Harry Potter. I mean, I may not be flying on a room, man, but I'm hanging out with really and doing really stuff that bled out into my waking conscious. Like in my daytime, you wouldn't think that something like this in the night that would happen it would correspond with something in your daytime. But I tell you, this is the Native Americans. They got the corner market on these spirits. Well, these beings, they had a distinct language and words for spirits and for people. And in nearly every tribe, what I'm talking about, they call people, not spirits. And there is a difference.
Sure. That's interesting. And so these experiences were incredibly transformative for you. I mean, like to the tune of just reinventing yourself.
Yeah. It was a unaware reinventing. I wasn't aware at the time. Had I been, I think I would have done a lot of things differently.
Sure.
I tended to have more fun with it as a novel sort of thing instead of getting, and I knew I should know better than that because I'm more versed in these type of things, but it was just such a beautiful experience with friends that I tended to come back for more, and it escalated. It was like the night before, this night was going to top it.
Yeah.
And they would always top it.
Wow.
And this went on for days and weeks and months. And you think about it, well, if it was topping it, by the time you stopped, it should have been just mind-blowing. And it was, but it made me realize they were all equally fantastic and out there. But it was just strange the way I would be thinking to myself, God almighty, you just can't make this up. How in the hell, how are you? This tops everything until, the next night. And I'd say it again.
So was this was a daily practice for you then?
Weather permitting, it was daily from about middle of February, roughly to the 1st of March. And when the weather got better, I was doing the black mirror where I'm seated now, and I had a black curtain draped down behind me. And I even fixed it up where I had the curtains running along this side and the front. And I liked the darkness. That was really better, but it made me feel a little too claustrophobic with the mirror being, right here and things coming out into the room and all. And when they came out in the room, it was great, but I didn't like them coming out in such a tight area. It just, it scared me, but it didn't feel right settled in my heart, I guess. But
when you're having these discussions, can you walk us through what the communication was like? Like, what kind of things were you able to discuss with them, and what kind of insights? Obviously, I'm asking you a huge question, But I'm just asking to understand like a sampling of what this communication is like for you to connect with them and to engage them in an intellectual way.
Yeah. Well, it like with working with plant teachers or any type of thing or vision quest that invoke the putting of the self up vulnerable and exposed to certain degree of risk and overcoming it, whether it be through a plant teacher or just a vision quest with fasting or working with these guys. And it wasn't nothing I intentionally set out to do. However, I apologize. I must say, and this will happen. I kind of lost track of what I was talking about.
No, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. Just what was one of these? What was the conversation like? Like,
okay,
yeah.
Well, in order to do what I do, I have to do it with a certain degree of respect and sacredness, I guess you could say, reverence.
Sure.
As with all things, and I had a specific question I wanted to ask someone in my family, which I never did, by the way. I got sidetracked. I think I got a little touch of ADHD or something, and just went.
Sure.
I never went that way, but I was wanting to find out the post-mortem realms of how to traverse them, if they're traversable, and if so, what do I got to do in this round to make sure I have an awake choice as to what I'm doing, where I'm going, and not just get like a leaf, caught the wind sort of thing, and in the reincarnation or recycling process. Which to me, if there's a risk of that being a fact, then I'm going to mitigate that as much as I can in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. And so I went into it to find out information that I couldn't get nowhere. I mean, I'd lived for almost a decade trying to, meditating in different cultures, different types, different styles, and the reasons why, which is of course to escape the wheel of samsara, to get off the wheel, the loop, and at least decide if you want to come back down here and wrestle around in flesh and all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, that in doing that, as with any plant teacher, I did want to know, hey, I feel like I had I've had some insecurities in life or some unresolved issues, maybe like with girlfriends and ex-wife.
Sure.
And stuff like that. And I would use plant teachers to kind of go into the shadow work. And I also did the same with my first encounters with the black mirror. And I got a very peculiar result that I never would have imagined or expected in a million years. However, I was able to find out what they were and verify them within 90% certainty. And that I was dealing with what is known as salamanders. According to Paracelsus, they're the fire elementals, like the jinn, the salamander, the seraphims. Like they're kind of branches, orders of the fire beings. And I guess I don't know why, other than my sun sign is a fire sign, is Aries. Maybe that has something, I don't know. Maybe if I was a water sign, I would have seen mermaids up here. And I did see a lot of mermaids, and I'll tell you about that when I took it from here to the creek down here. But so I started getting these reptilian-looking beings that were half hot. They were translucent to opaque. And so it was like the more real my mind would, the left would unlock or let go, the more opaque they would get. But sometimes that opaqueness would jar me into a reality shift, like not out of fear, but more an excited sort of way, like, holy cow, this is really, and just that thought, just that split second right there will make it go poof. They don't tolerate mind chatter and discursive. They respect and only seemed, for me, it may be different, but unless you're mind speaking, then that's a different thing altogether. But this is what I learned after almost 3 weeks of nearly nightly. I'd come in here, I'd get the mirror out, and it was always the same formula. It was black mirror, white smoke, big snake, because a python-looking serpent, a snake, would come up out of the mirror, and I'd see it off in the distance in the mirror, because I had this mirror in front of me where you're at, excuse me, at an angle, and I'd be gazing through it as if I'm looking 100 miles away over the ocean, just gazing through it, and I'd see a green light speck come out, and it'd get closer and closer, and every now and then it would be a big old snake.
Wow!
And it was like like something like you see in the jungle, like a python, and it became such a part of the program. I knew when I saw that, buddy, it was on. Well, I knew when I saw the white smoke, it was on, because the white smoke would come, the mirror would start smoking crazy, my body would start smoking. It got so bad when I first did it, I thought I was on fire that I dropped a cigarette in my chair. Wow. And I was spontaneous human combustion. And I went outside and looked for a fire in my wall or a socket behind me, and but the thing I was asking them, I was like, look, I want to know, I want to answer specifically my questions. And for 3 weeks, it's kind of like the same old thing, and I didn't get bored with them. And I love them to death. They want nothing out of the way, except for the last time I was with them. I had a rather kind of shaky experience with them, and that's when I said, okay, it was my fault because I didn't understand it. They were mind speaking to me at the time. They were laying some heavy stuff on me too, and I didn't realize it until it was gone. It was over. I dismissed them politely, and I'd asked them on the like the third week this is happening, and I didn't tell you all the stuff that happens before they got here, as far as the flying blue skulls and Confederate war soldier, and women like from the 1800s and 17, and they float around my room in here, look at my art on the wall, and they'd be going, "What?" And I'm sitting there thinking, what this is awesome, man. It was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
But so I found out post facto what, bless their heart, they were trying to tell me. But in the process of dismissing them, I just was kind of like, where's the beef at, guys? I can't invest this much time at night and staying up and doing this. I love it to death, but I got to have information. I can't just do it to do it, And I don't do it novelty. Right. But I did. I'm guilty of it myself. So after the third week or so, I got to thinking and looking into it. I thought I need to get out of my house and learn hydromancy. Using the water instead of a mirror. It was the same stuff. I wasn't bored. Trust you me, I could have done it more, but I wanted, as I was researching the things that I was seeing and happening, I come across hydromancy in ancient Greece. And, at that time, I knew nothing of ancient Greece other than kind of maybe Zeus or what you hear the Olympians. I didn't really, I may have studied in social studies in high school, but I didn't take it in college, anything. But I learned about Greece, buddy. I tell you that when I got to that Greek. They showed me all sorts of Grecian knowledge. I don't know how to say it. It's just the muses.
Sure.
But so anyway, I don't know if I'm talking too much or.
No. I'm finding it fascinating. I did want to go back to what you said. You said the plant teachers. Are you speaking like ayahuasca, or are you talking psychedelics when you're talking about plant teachers or plant medicine?
Yes, okay. Sir. In general, for the most part, yes.
Okay.
And I don't mean so in a recreational
No.
sort of way.
I've got plenty of acquaintances and friends who have used ayahuasca and have come to some incredible epiphanies and had amazing experiences. And the plant medicines are older than time. You know,
Amazing.
yeah, that's what I understand. So I don't mean that in a disparaging way at all. I was just trying to make sure I
Sure.
understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about anything. I just don't want to talk about anything that's off limits or
Oh, no.
out of character, for your
No,
viewers and all.
that's fine, and of course we're not endorsing that or trying to talk people away from that. Just you got to follow your path, and certainly for some that includes the plant medicines and some of these practices, and for others it doesn't. So, but everybody's welcome to share here on the portal. So, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying as you're using these terms, and that our listeners understand that as well.
But I will state this for the record for you or your viewers that during this 2018 up until present, there's been no intervention or use of that to do what I'm talking about here.
Okay, fair enough.
As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about all the times I've done it here.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I probably ate my body's weight in mushrooms, and I got to the point, like Terrence McKenna says, when you get the message, hang up the phone. And I just kind of kept getting hit the ceiling, so to speak. And I stopped doing them. But that was roughly about a year, I'd stopped working with them when the faith thing come on with it, 2018. Mm-hmm. And man, to tell you the truth, I don't know if I'd want to be on them. I've often thought about it though, but you don't need them.
Yeah. So this has been an incredibly shamanistic journey for you, though. And I know that's one of the words you use in your blog. But was that intentional, or did it just turn out that way?
No way, man. I kind of had a clue, you could say, maybe for almost 10 years, because I've had a natural bond with nature as a child, being in nature all the time. Nature was my best friend. I hung out with her as often as I could, whenever I could, growing up. And matter of fact, it was to the point where they had neighborhood rescue search parties, and they'd be out looking for me. And of course, they eventually found me.
Wow!
But it was just, I was always drawn to nature as long as I've been alive and kicking. Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
So, are you today, as a result of these journeys and conversations? I mean, I guess it goes without saying to say that your life is incredibly evolved through the course of these journeys. But what would you say to people that want to make these connections as well? I know that a lot of listeners have aspired to connect with the little people, and are they sometimes physical in our realm as well, like physical, like you and I? Would you say that they are? First of all, how can people kind of follow this path, or what advice would you give them? And second of all, in terms of like the little people and these other beings, are they physical in their own right, or do they exist only energetically here, or what would your take on that be?
My take would be both.
Okay.
I've never been able to sit through a transformation from light or white smoke to holographic, transparent, translucent, opaque to solid. Mm-hmm. I've had them. I could tell you some tales about it there, buddy. And it's a hard thing to sit through. And I dare any human to have the proximity and the contact and maybe if you hear it from somebody like me who's been through it and made the mistakes, you can perfect what I didn't do. And trust me, if I decide to go back and do it again, I think I will master it. The solid, getting through that, because it's not like it's scary, but you always have that little escape hatch in the back of your mind, like this could all be just a hallucination or illusion.
Sure.
But this is. But when I've had I call them the forest giants. I don't know if they're really Sasquatch type people, or the Cherokee type forest beings that were similar to the Yeti, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but they're big and they're something else, and they are smart, they are witty, and they are a trip. And there's another person that's taken this level of content, and I'm sure there's more that I'm just not aware of, but a lot of you may know of Sunbow, and the communications with Sasquatch. He's wrote several books on it. Yeah, he's a good not really a translator, but he works with them very closely. And,
okay.
His work is fascinating, but that's another story. You might want to. I don't know what the time. I hadn't been keeping track of my time here.
We got about 15, 20 minutes left, but the reason that I was asking about the physicality of them is that, of course, I've talked to many people through the years that have seen these things. They weren't on a shamanistic journey in any measure, but they suddenly these things made themselves known. But then a lot of times they may not be observed, but they just, for all intents and purposes, are gone. And it seems like a supernatural kind of gone. Like, how was that just here interacting very physically with the environment around them, and then suddenly, poof, gone, And so that's why I was curious with your insights, if they can be, if they are physical or at least can be. And so I appreciate you answering that, because we get all kinds of claims of these things being seen, like gnomes, duende, all these little people. There's different versions of the red cap gnomes, of course, that don't seem to like us a whole lot, and the puckwudgies and things like that. These proto pygmies, if you will, and they seem to be very physical in a lot of these cases, but sometimes they exhibit these supernatural aspects. So it's like trying to understand that. You know what I mean?
And you described it very well, Brent. It's a mixture of everything that you brought out. And what I mean is you can look at it like high speed energy coming through from a different dimension, and for it to interface with us, it has to put on the brakes, if you will. And in doing so, it's like entering in through an Earth atmosphere with if you want to say that, a firmament or whatever, of a rocket, and it's they slowing it down, and as they do, it's almost like they're smoking, and as they approach wherever I'm at, I'm smoking too, and the smoke would start jerking. Now I could only say it like it would come to a point where it starts to bellow. And at one point after all this, I'm wondering, like, man, I wonder how much energy I'm given to do this, or how much they're spending to decelerate. But it's all about the energy, as you know, light waves,
frequency. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes. Slowing down, and the density what's the word I'm looking for? Commensurate with the vibrational frequency. So as things start to really slow down in frequency, they still will coalesce and precipitate into a moisture or a solid particle that looks solid when it's only just light waves. And that would help explain how they go from a solid to a translucent spirit look, and can just go anywhere they want, at with a thought, basically. And they use portals a lot, and the vortex is where the nodes where they cross, just like we use depots and train stations and crossings. And
that's very interesting, though, because I know there may be some people out there listening going, what the hell? But here's the thing, and in fundamental physics, all matter is energy on its most fundamental form. So I mean, and we are coalesced into a very physical form here in our experience. But
We are.
at its root, all matter is energy. So is it so hard to believe that there's things that maybe exist without outside of our ability to perceive them, but perhaps what you said, slowing down enough to coalesce into a physical form, and that to me actually really makes a lot of sense, and it's an interesting thought on this whole process, because there's so many people in my communities out there looking and wanting to substantiate these things because they've seen them, they've experienced them, they've had their lives changed by these experiences, but they're still largely regarded by our Western philosophy as, oh, something wrong with that person, but maybe
Yeah,
not.
right.
As I'm sure you're aware. But I mean, these kind of things are hard to quantify in our Western thinking. So I really appreciate your input on this, because you come at it from a whole different angle, which I love. I think that we stand to learn so much from each other and from the ideas that you're bringing to the table. So what is this journey to you? Or what? I mean, obviously there's a journey of understanding and growth, but and maybe you stumbled into it, maybe it was always your calling, but where is it going as far as you're concerned? What is your purpose for continuing to look down the rabbit hole, so to speak?
It seems to be, and this is from asking them at some point, when I realized, like, hey, I need to really get down to the nitty gritty and work and see where they're going with it, and communicate is key. What exactly what was this all about? Why me? What does this mean? And if this is real as I think it is, it's a pretty big deal, and it's a big tall order if it's something that they were requesting, which it was, because I'm pretty much a private person, a man. I don't, this sort of thing I would have never imagined myself being in any sort of position where I'm doing an interview on a podcast like this, especially talking about this stuff. But
Sure.
I had a propensity towards it in more ways, than. But that said, I've never been one to chase, be interested in little people or fairies or Bigfoot's kind of intrigued me, but I'm a kind of person, I don't believe anything. I either know or I don't know, and I've been that way since I've been a young and growing up. And belief has been something that's been hard for me to reconcile in my mind, especially the older I get and think about it. I try to avoid the word, and I'm okay with people using it, but me personally, it's I either know it or I don't, and it's okay to say I don't know, as opposed to I believe, where it leaves that. Maybe it's good for people at a point in their life, but there's a point, I think, where people need to either know it or not, and be able to say, hey, it's okay to not know, and you will know. The one thing I know about it, this pursuit of knowledge, is the more you know how much you don't know, and that's a fact. Yeah.
Now, in your experience, you've also got, as you claim, and I haven't seen them yet, but you have a blog, and we'll certainly link that blog in the descriptions for those that want to check out the work. But what kind of things have you been able to catalog visually or photographically? What kind of things have you observed that you were able to record?
In a roundabout way, nearly all of the elemental, I guess you want to call them elementals,
Okay.
Nature spirits of the elements, the water beings, the earth beings, the air beings, the fire beings, and dare I say, beings that I have yet to be able to adequately satisfy my thirst to know what they are. Maybe ether beings, or beings that dwell in that ether quasi smoky state. And I can tell you a lot about ether beings, maybe your listeners or yourself are more accustomed to a phantom or a what do you call that thing? It's a will-o-wisp.
Oh, sure.
It's like it's like a white, smoky ghost phantom. Man, I want to tell you something. I have had around and around with these guys up around this part of the place. I've been ambushed. I've been stalked. I've been slammed into it. It got to be such a common occurrence that I've developed this instinctual tucking. This feels like you see them come gliding through the woods, man, and I was targeted. They hit me. And you can feel it, but it wasn't what you think. It would be like a cold. It's in a cold chill up my spine, like a kind of like a kundalini. What people thought. Now, when the kundalini rises I've had or middle openings was not that, but from what I've read about that could be what that was. Or some people say it was a ghost or whatever. I don't know, but they never really scared me, and it was kind of entertainment. And for a while, then it got to be kind of a pain. Yeah. It became, I'm tired of this. What the hell? I'd be working in, something at nighttime, and it got to the point where I got hit by 4 coming in all 4 directions in the top of my driveway, which is a portal, by the way, there.
Oh, okay.
And when that happened, I got thinking, I wonder if I upset them or something I've done or they're playing with me. But I've been hit every which way but loose between here and the creek. I live about 220 foot above the creek. Oh. And the creek has carved a horseshoe around my property where my house sits. And so it's all straight cliff. It's very anti-human habitat environment. And probably one reason the phase has been in a... They told me about this area and how to find others like it, that where Earth makes these... it wears the veil thin from constant pressure over millions of years in certain local spots,
Oh, okay.
And doing it through hard rock like granite with veins of quartz.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm down on anybody who wants to know like tips and tricks on where to find these type of the Native Americans call these type of spots where I think I live is a spot on the phone. A baby deer has this, like Bambi. Yeah. It has spots. And they referred, this is what I've read, of these areas, they call them the sacred areas. All land's sacred, don't get me wrong, but
sure,
these are heightened, charged places, and they were known as spots on a baby deer. And there's a reason they chose to call it that, because you have to have that child, you have to go reach inside yourself and get what's left of your heart that you were born into this world with before puberty, and the world turns it colder and colder and stuck into stone. Yeah. And so I think they combine spots with the phone to symbolize the rarity of some of these places and the conjunction of having that young deer spirit dwelling within, that innocence, that fearlessness. That's my personal take on it.
That's kind of interesting that you say that, of course, because according to the Christ, you must be like a child to get to know the Father, and it's like, wow. So that's
a good way to think about that, right?
Yeah. So it's neat when those themes are repeated, even across, belief systems. It shows that their truth is universal, right?
Absolutely. And I tell you the truth, there's a lot to do with it in all cultures about the heart, whether there's much truth to it or not. Yeah. In my workings and encounters, I seem to lean towards it. I ain't no angel, by no means, but I ain't no devil, and I try my best to live a kind of a bodhisattva, kind of a Buddha, Christ type of life where I don't try not to hurt no one. Sure. Best I can. I fail in that from time to time, I'm sure, but
yeah, we all do.
Conscientiously doing it, no.
Yeah.
Never. But there's something about that they love. They just go cuckoo for coconuts. And I've had guests here that have that. Yeah, really. Yeah. I've had a guest come over, and The ones who were more like open-minded and carefree, not in a loose way, but in a more disciplined yet innocent way. It's a hard thing to describe.
Right.
It's a light heart, I guess you could say. They seem to have a lot more success in seeing certain beings. The anyone who I felt like was a little less than that as far as the development of, because let's face it, I don't know how many you or your listeners are aware with Kundalini yoga and awakening your middle eye, but they don't make it that easy that anybody can just open your middle eye. You got the trick and the key is in the heart to open this one up. It's not a straight shot through Anahata, your throat chakra and your middle ajna chakra. There's a shortcut from here to here. And it's a trick. You're not really going to open it by working on your Vishuddha and then your ajna, then your sahasrara. It comes from here and it goes here. Then it goes up and then it opens up the throat, so to speak. Because only then will you speak the things that don't, they made a lock that makes it hard for someone who's not really there or being honest or true to themselves or others. Let me interject here and say these beings have a laser vision and can cut through anybody's BS. They can see. They have a way they see people.
Yeah.
And energy. It's something else.
That's really, really fascinating. And Steve, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. I hope you'll come back and bring us further into this experience and further into this understanding, because I find it really extraordinarily fascinating. And I do want to understand more personally about your process, about what you've experienced and how it's impacted your life. But thank you so much for coming on today.
You're very welcome. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate once again you having me to come up and get to talk with you and meet you and your audience. And I'd love to come back. So thank you.
All right, everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. So hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thank you again so much for all your love and support. And remember, if you want to follow the Paranormal Portal, probably the easiest way is to head over to paranormalportal.net. And that's the homepage for the Paranormal Portal. And you'll find links to all of our different social media and sites and information about the shows, including our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paranormalportal. Or just look for Paranormal Portal on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find links to our social media such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So we're kind of all over the place, and we're spreading as well as we can. But anyway, thank you so much for the love and support. Y'all take care, and remember, we love y'all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Until next time.